Hello and welcome to episode 6 of the Godot Tower Defense tutorial. Thank you for joining me and I hope you're doing well. In this episode we're going to learn about how we can use dragging and dropping to drag our turrets into places that are legally available. You'll notice right now there's a button down the bottom in the middle. I can click on it and I can drag it around. If it's not letting me drop it there, it will actually highlight it in red, but if it's an acceptable place it actually stays green with a little bit of transparency there, and you can actually drop them where you want. The turrets don't do anything right now, but we'll work on that later on. But you can see that this is a pretty cool system. Now, it hasn't come easy. I've had a number of problems with this, getting this working for you, which is why, again, apologies for the slow delivery of this tutorial, but it hasn't been an easy one. And thank you to Lizard13 on Reddit for really pointing me in the right direction on how to do this, which I will talk you through as we go through the tutorial. Before we start, there's a few things I'd just like to discuss. One of them is a big thank you to everybody that's been following, commenting, liking, subscribing. The whole thing it's been fabulous. The feedback has been really, really good, and I think you are enjoying these tutorials. So I've got a stretch goal to reach 1,000 subscribers by Christmas. I know that's, it's a big ask, but if you are enjoying the channel and you're watching it, then please do subscribe and let me know what you think of it. Any questions you've got, I will try and answer all of the questions that come from this from these tutorials, so please do let me know. Just in terms of what I've been doing in the game, then, just to get you started here, rather than actually go through the whole thing, what I'll actually do is I'll just show you some of the pieces that I've done. Firstly, what I've actually done here is I've created a turret scene, and let me find that scene here. If I just double click it, I think it might already be here. Here we go, 3D. So I've created a little a turret here. It is a base and the turret on top. So you've got the cannon itself and the base. Something to be aware of here, and this is where I did come unstuck, is that these meshes have materials associated with them right now. This is okay. This one isn't too bad, and the cannon isn't too bad. It's only got one material. But the base has three materials. It's got red, stone, and stone dark. So getting the object to turn red when it's not in a valid area was very challenging, but I really wanted it to do that, as well as being transparent. The problem sits around reusing materials. If you change the material, then it's very difficult to change it back. But you'll see here we do have these surface material overrides, which we're going to take advantage of. We're going to add and remove those in our scripts. As well as that, I just created a thumbnail image for it. Here we go, Canon 1A. I don't know if it's going to let me double click that. There it is. One of the things about this, and I don't know quite what the answer is yet, is I was having a real problem being able to resize it actually within the button. So I've set the size limit on the import here to 96. Okay, so you'll see that in the images folder if you download this from Git, which you always will, I'm sure. So as well as that, I also created a material, which is very, very simply just a red base material with the albedo set to red and the transparency shading. Hang on, where are we? Sorry, transparency here. Just shading there is set to alpha there. Okay, so if that's not set to alpha, if it's disabled, then alpha won't be allowed on these on that specific material. Something to bear in mind if you're wondering why, when you've set the alpha here, it's not working. That's because you need to make sure that the transparency is up there. Okay, so that material has been created. I changed the contrast slightly. If I go to the scene itself, to the main scene, very, very slightly. If I show you the world environment here, I just updated the contrast. There we go. So I've adjusted the contrast here to 1.25. I think it just makes it look a little bit more crisp. It's still not perfect, but I think it highlights these a little bit better. So, I did that as well. Feel free. And I changed the background slightly as well, just because I was getting bored with it to the colour. But again, I might do something with that a bit later on. And finally, you may have spotted down on the bottom right here, we've got 4.2. I've upgraded to the latest version. Now, my life tip is that never go for the first. When things first come out, give it a couple of days to soak, just to see if anything goes wrong. And sure enough, Beta 1, I think, was updated about 5 days later with some bug fixes. So we're running 4.2 beta 2. It did come up with this error here in the middle of the screen here. I had to catch it before I got rid of it. It's got these upgrading mesh from older surface format. Once saved again or re-imported, this mesh will be incompatible with other versions. The way to fix that is to go into the add-ons. Just click on the add-ons folder here. sorry, the assets folder. And then if you go to import and then click on re-import, I'm not going to do that now, but if you click on re-import, then you'll see that it will, I guess, re-import all those assets using the 4.2 converter or whatever that may be. Yeah. So with all that said, that's it. We're ready to go, and let's have a look at our main scene and see what it looks like. So if we go over to main here and then a 3D, we will see that under the scene here, I've added a control and a button. So what I'll actually do is I'll delete this button here. Okay, we'll create a new one. So I could create a separate UI scene, but for now I'm just literally going for a simple setup here. And what I've actually done, I've actually got an action button, but I'll create a new one here, and we'll call this something like activity button. So let's just create a new other node here, and we'll call it button. Click create. Now this button doesn't look like anything right now, which does make a lot of sense. It's not going to have any text. The icon itself is going to be defined by the main script, so we can change that in there. But what I'm particularly interested in now is getting a script associated with this button, so that when we put it onto the main scene, it will actually do something. So let's add a script to this now. So let's click on here, and we'll call this. I'm going to call this activity button. I don't love that, because the button's meant to define things like you can, at the moment, it's going to be dragging turrets on, but it could be dragging people that will be smashing those rocks up or whatever. So, but we'll go with the activity button. If you can think of a better name, please use that. And we'll click on create. Now, like I mentioned, if I go back to the 2D scene, there's a couple of things we need to think about here on the button. One is the icon that it's going to be using, and one is the object that's going to be dragged around. So let's make both of those things, put both of those things in the script. So let's just have an export here, at export var, activity button icon of type texture 2D. And also we want our scene, that this is the thing that's going to be dragged around. For instance, it would be the turret in this case. So we'll just call this at export var activity draggable. Okay. We'll go with that for now, and go with that. And that's our button in a nutshell. But what we'll actually do here is we will say in here, we'll just say icon equals activity button icon. And that should then, when it loads up, it should set that in there. So now if we just press Control S, and if I just go over to my main scene again, and we will click on the control here, back to 3D, and if we're lucky, hang on, we need to save this, don't we? Let's just save this here, Control S. We'll call this activity button, and we'll put it into the scenes for now. Yeah, why not? Save it in there, and I'll just rename it here as well, so it's clear what it is. Should have done that first. Activity button, and that's that there. So now what we should be able to do is, if we go up to main here, if we just drag our activity button there, drag that onto the control, and that should pop in. And let's put it up there, and that's absolutely fine, because what we're going to do is we're going to click on the anchors here and do bottom, center bottom. There, it's going to put it down there. Now, the problem here is, if one thing is much too small, so what we'll do is go back to our button. I'm going to close action button down and go to activity button, so we don't get confused. You don't want to see that one. So we want to, under the layout, we want to set a minimum size here of 96. Let's drag that down a bit so you can see 96 by 96. Enter. And now if I just save that, if I go back into main, I don't know how quickly that updates. There we go. That's nice. And what I'm going to do, I'm going to keep it at the center bottom anchor, but I'm going to move it up eight slots. Okay. Now if we press play now, it's going to complain because there's no activity button icon. So let's quickly drag that in there. That's under the images here. If we click here, Canon 1A, and drag that into the activity button icon. We're not doing anything with the draggables yet, so we should be okay. If I pop in here, that's worked rather nicely. You can see it's pulled it in there, and it's stuck our activity button. Nothing actually works now, and it's got this white line around it, which I'll show you how to get rid of in a minute. Okay, good start. We need this button to recognize when it's being dragged or not. And the way to do that is to add a couple of signal listeners to the button itself. So if we go to activity button, click on node here, and we've got button down and button up. So if we go over to the script, let's just add another variable called is dragging. I'll put underscore at the start to indicate that it's meant to be a private variable, and we'll set that to false. What's happened there? What on earth? Sorry, a bool. equals false. Really? Thank you. Okay. And then what we'll do here is we'll add a couple of listeners. So let's just start with button down. We'll connect that to the activity button on button down. Lovely. Click on there, and then we'll just say underscore is dragging equals true. And that's all we'll do there for now. And we'll do something similar for button up. We'll connect, and we'll on button up. Yep. And here we'll say underscore is dragging equals false. Okay. Not a lot of. Let's just put a little print statement here. Should we say print button down? And over here, we'll just put button up. And let's just see if that's working. We'll run it. And on the bottom left, you can see the button down has gone. And if I let go, button up. Now, what I would try, if I just click button down and then let go outside, it also still does say button up. Okay, so I was outside the window. So that seems to be working without any errors at all. This is great and everything, but what we now need to do is go back to our raycasting logic to say, right, well, if a button is down, we need to find out whereabouts the mouse is as we're dragging around. So let's have a look at that now. What I will actually do is I'll grab the code from the raycast that we did in main, and I will stick it in here, and I'll be right back when I've done that. Okay, before that, there's a couple of things we do need to do, so sorry about that. What we need to do is we actually need to instantiate this activity draggable in our scene so that we can have a reference to that at a later stage. So let's actually do that. What we'll do is we'll create a separate variable, a local one. We'll call this draggable type pack scene. And in here, we'll just say underscore draggable equals activity draggable dot instantiate, and we will then say add child underscore draggable, and we'll set that. We'll just say underscore draggable dot visible equals false. That's it. Pack scene. What have I got there? Pack scene. There we go. Okay, so that's going to allow us to add objects to it. You'll see in a moment. So something's gone wrong here. Sorry, it's draggable's not. It's a node, isn't it? It's a node, not a pack scene. So there we go. So our draggable. There we go. That's better. There we go. Add trial visible equals false. If I quickly try and run that, I think it might pop it up in the top left-hand corner. It's not happy about that. No, it wouldn't do because we need to add it to the main here. If we just stop it and then just under our activity button, we need to add the draggable itself, which we will put to the, let's click rid of that, to the scenes, our turret here, drag that in there, pop, there we go, activity draggable. And now if we click it, I think it will appear, I thought it would appear over there. But did we set visible to false? I think we did, didn't we? So let's get rid of that. Hang on. Yeah, so that's not going to help, is it? There, we can see it there. There it is. Okay, now it's a little low. That's okay. We don't care too much about that right now. The point is it's there, and now we know that it actually exists. One more thing is we need a reference to the camera. So let's just have a var underscore cam of type camera 3D. And in here, we'll just say underscore cam equals get viewport dot camera. There you go, get camera 3D. And that's quite good. It'll say what camera this viewport is using right now. With all that done, now we can actually add the physics process now because we've got all of the information we need. So let's add that in now. 1 second, and I'll put that in. Okay, here's the code. I've made a few changes. One of the things, because it's a button, we need to actually get access to the world that the actual draggable's in. So I've actually put the underscore draggable dot get world 3D, create direct space state, and the rest of the code is pretty much the same. I did have to add, of course, the raycast length. The reference to the camera is all the same here, and we've got our collider. So what we should be able to do is, if it's just here, we'll just do print CO, and let's just see how close we are to this being done now. Click on here. If I drag, and you can see this is good. It's got the if you look in the bottom left there, you can see it's got different names and all that good stuff. So what actually we could probably do is to say dot group. What's it? co.getGroup 0. I think it's get groups 0. That's not complaining at the moment. Let's give it a quick play and see. Oh, there we go. Yeah, you can see it's actually working nicely. Bottom left, you can see it's picking up the right thing. Go path, grid rock, lovely, grid empty. So we're making really good progress here. We've now got the dragging thing. When we stop, I assume button up is what we see. Perfecto. This is really rather good. Okay, so we're in a pretty good place so far. So now what we want to be able to do is actually see the object that it's on screen. So let's make this do something along the lines of getting that collision place. So what's that warning there? Unused variable. Fine. We're going to use it in a second. We will say something along the lines of underscore draggable dot visible equals true. Underscore draggable dot global position. I think that'll work if I can spell position. Equals vector 3. And we're going to have it's going to be co dot global position dot x comma 0. No, let's put it up a little bit, shall we? I think it's 0.2 it needs to be up, otherwise it won't. It'll be sunk into the actual tile itself. And then co dot global position dot z. Now let's do something like let's have an else as well here. Else underscore draggable dot visible equals false. Yeah. That's that. If it's right, yeah, that's fine. Okay, lovely. Let's give it a try. So now I'm dragging, and it's working. Look at this. It's actually dragging it around all over the place. This is rather good. But the only thing is, of course, it looks right now. And also, if you let go, look, it doesn't actually remove it. So what we could probably do there is, it will remove it. Actually, what it's doing is when I let go, it's staying in the last place. If I drag it again, yes, it'll move it. You see. So if I drag it again now, it's moving it. So what we want to do on button up here is we'll just say underscore draggable dot visible equals false, and that should then stop us being able to see it when we let go, which indeed we can. Now, I think for the sake of simplicity, I will do the very, very simple thing of just making it go red if it's over one of these non-empty tiles or a path. So what we can do to start with is we'll add another if statement here. I might put this in a method. We'll see how we go. But we'll just say we've got the group here. We know the group name, don't we? So we're going to say if. Now, hang on. Yeah, let's put it here. And co dot group get groups 0 equals, was it empty? What was the group name for the activity button? Equals grid under. That's probably not the best way of doing it, but grid empty. And so now this is only going to appear now. Assignment is not allowed. Equals. Oh my goodness. Okay. I'm glad it warned me of that. That could have caught me out for a while. Identify a CO. Yes, of course. That's not going to work there, is it? Control X. Okay, so what we need to do is in here, put it there. If CO is grid empty, like so. That should do it. Okay, so if co.getGroups is grid empty, draggable visible looks true, and show the thing now. So I'm hoping, that will. So where's the icon gone? We've got a debugger problem. I think I know what it is. I'll put a colon there. I thought I saw that when I ran it. Okay, and we're back in. Right. So it's working there, and if you drag it, you notice it doesn't appear over there, which is, I think, it's kind of confusing. You need to see it in red. Okay. So what we need to do, if it's in a place where it shouldn't be, I mean, it is actually not moving it there now, okay, which is okay. But what we want to be able to do is say, well, if it's in a place that it shouldn't be, we want to set it to red. Now, this is where I came unstuck. What I was thinking is I could use the modulate function or whatever, but because we're using materials rather than a texture file, which is I would argue, the right way of doing it. We need to go through each of those materials in the draggable and set the material override to red. So I'm going to put the code in. I'll put the code and then I'll talk through it. So let me put the code in and then we'll talk through what I'm going to do. Okay, here's the code that I'm going to do. So what this actually does is we're going to pass it a node, which will be the parent node of the scene, the pack scene, which in this case is going to be our draggable turret. And what it does is it looks at all of the children and checks to see if any of them are mesh instance 3Ds. And if it does, it runs this function down here, which I'll talk about in a second, called set mesh error. But it also, because it's recursive, and you know that's we want, potentially it might have children that have meshes in them. If it's a node and it has children, then we actually run this function again with that child node in it, and so it'll go through all of the nodes, all of the subnodes, checking for all of the mesh instance 3Ds, and then running this function. Good start. What does the function do? Well, it says for SI in mesh 3D dot get surface count. So if we go back to our turret and pick on what was it, the tower base, wasn't it? And we go to 3D. Come on, click on there. Inspect it. This is the surface count. So it's going through all of the surfaces here, and then what it then does to our script is it says set the surface override material, which again, if I go here, is these ones here, 0, 1, 2. They always match, by the way. So if there's a surface, there'll be a surface override. So we can set the surface override material 0, 1, and 2, yeah, because we're going through a loop, to the error material, which I've set up here as a link to, do you remember from a long time ago, that material, that red material there. I appreciate it's pretty horrible, but I will, as always, put the code on GitHub, and you can take a look at that if you wish. So what we can now do is we can just say here, we'll say else, underscore draggable visible equals true. I might just change that slightly. Visible equals true. We do set the global position, so I think this might be slightly badly designed at the minute, so I might have a little tidy up of that shortly. And then we'll also say set child mesh error brackets, and it is of course the underscore draggable. Okay, now if we do that, I think what will happen is it will go red, but it stays red because the good one doesn't have a clear. So let's just do something similar where we clear the thing. So what we'll do is we'll almost write exactly the same thing here. Okay, we'll write one called clear child mesh error. So let's put that down here. Clear child mesh error, same gig, and that'll be clear mesh error there. And this one has to say clear child mesh error. Otherwise, we're going to end up getting ourselves in a right old state. Clear child mesh error, and then this one says clear. SI is null. Okay, so that's going to clear all of the errors if it's not correct. I think obviously up here again we need to add a basically just copy that and change that to clear child mesh error. Let's have a look. Now if we drag, it's red, it's green, it's working wonderfully. Look, we've got our drag and drop system working really well. Look at that. Okay, I'm very happy. Now, obviously, when you let go, nothing happens. And we really want it now to say, well, if it's a good location, then we're in good shape. So let's we want to actually instantiate a turret there. So let's do the following as well. Let's add a new variable at the top. We'll say is valid location underscore is valid location is a bool, and we'll default it to false. And we'll say var underscore last valid location of type vector 3. Also good. And then what we'll do down here is we'll say visible equals true, and then we'll say is valid location equals true. Now I noticed that we're going to set the global position twice here. So let's do this. Let's have a underscore last valid location equals that vector 3. Hang on. There. And we'll pop that there. and then we can just say last valid location there. That should work. So while we're doing that, right? So the reason we're doing that is when we do the lift up now, if the valid location is true, we must make sure to set that to false here, right? Underscore is valid location equals false there. So if this is true, then we'll set it. We'll set the draggable one to the location and set its global position as always. And then what happens here when we lift up? Which is somewhere, one button up here. Okay, we will we'll say right if is valid location. Then what we'll do is we'll say, well, we need to instantiate the object, don't we? So let's do that. So we'll just say, what's it called? Activity draggable. Yeah, activity draggable. See, that's the bad name for it now, isn't it? But for now, we'll just say var activity equals activity draggable dot instantiate. Right, and then we say add child activity, and then we say activity global position equals last valid location. So what we're doing here is we're saying, yeah, after we've lifted up the mouse, if it's a valid one, instantiate it. So let's just try it. Let's give it a go. So if I click on here and then I release, it's added it. There we go. They've added them. This is good. Now, one thing I want to check is if I let go now, it does drop off. That's good. I want to check to see if, yeah, you see, if you go to the left slightly, it does still disappear. That's good. I was thinking it might just stick to the left-hand side, but it's working rather well. So now we have our draggables all over it, and you can see this has gone red. And this is fairly scalable, as you can probably tell now, because we've got a function where we can add, because the button has an icon and a draggable, we can define different scenes that we want to instantiate using this button. So it doesn't just have to be used for turrets; it could be used for the people that are going to be doing the work and what have you. Working rather well. Look at this. There we go. Obviously, it's too many. We'll need to have a way to stop this working when we run out of money or whatever. Oh, the one thing I did want to say about was the button itself was this frame around here. So if we want to get rid of that, let's quickly do that now. If I go to Activity Button, 2D, and then it's under Theme Overrides, I believe. Yeah, it must be Theme Overrides. I will find it. Styles, here we go. Under Focus, we want to click on that, or rather click on here and do New Style Box Empty. All right, so now if we run it, I think that will sort it out now. So when it's actually done, there you go. You see now it doesn't actually do anything. Folks, we're there. We're there. We're done. We're done for this episode, and I hope that made some sense. As like I say, I will put this on GitHub, and I will put a link to that GitHub page in the description below. Once again, appreciate your time. Please let me know what you think. Are you confused? Let me know. I will do my best to answer your questions. Until next time, folks, have a really good one. All the best. Shark out.